Welcome to Diagnosing DX, the podcast giving diagnostics the platform it deserves. While therapeutics and devices often take center stage, diagnostics is the engine driving precision medicine. I'm your host, David Philby, and each week we spotlight the innovators, breakthroughs, and real-world challenges shaping the future of DX. This week I'm joined by Yana Aznavour, OB-GYN surgeon turned founder of Endometrics. We unpack one of the biggest failures in modern healthcare, why women are still waiting up to 11 years for a diagnosis and why the current standard still relies on surgery. Yana shares how she's building a new diagnostic platform using menstrual blood, why most diagnostics fail at the point of clinical adoption, and what founders consistently get wrong when bringing new tests to market. If you care about building diagnostics that actually get used, this is a must listen. Yana, welcome to the show this week. How are you?
Hi, great. Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Where in the world are you?
I'm traveling right now, yeah, but we're based in SF and also have second location in North Carolina.
And where are you today?
In Raleigh, North Carolina.
You're in Raleigh. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And has springtime hit Raleigh yet?
Yes, yeah, it's so beautiful here, actually.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Now, you've been really busy. I like your LinkedIn for Endometrics has been blowing up, right? You're now like a celebrity. But before we get into that, if you could kindly introduce yourself and your career, your background, and who you are, and we'll take it from there.
Of course, yeah, I would love to. Yeah, this March has been crazy and would love to speak about it later. Yeah, I'm Yana Aznavour. I'm OB-GYN, minimally invasive gynecological surgeon by training, CEO and founder of Endometrics. And we are building this, novel clinical intelligence platform for women's health. And we're using the most biologically relevant sample for it, which is menstrual blood. And I'm really passionate about changing the diagnostic infrastructure for women.
Wow. Okay. When did you make the change from practicing OB-GYN into a founder of a diagnostics company, and how did that happen?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's been 5 years already. So I've been pure clinical person working in the OR, doing surgeries primarily on endometriosis patients. And then I did my PhD on genetics of endometriosis again. That's how I got really, really interested and decided to deep dive. And while doing PhD, I consulted a couple of bioinformaticians teams on the clinical aspects of diagnosis they've been studying. And I got interested in the industry. That's how I've been started exploring startups in women's health, in reproductive health in general. I became a clinical advisor for a couple of very early stage startups in women's health. I got really interested in the field. And I also at the same time realized how they miss the conversations with physicians, which is so crucial at early stage from the beginning. And I decided to build the product myself. So that's how it started. And I shifted from the pure clinical work to this crazy entrepreneurship.
Wow. So you went in as an advisor first into the
Yeah.
industry, and actually,
Mhm.
I've heard this so many times that you noticed that early stage founders and companies were missing conversations with practicing
Mhm.
clinicians and physicians, and therefore
Yeah.
have science that they don't even know if it's going to actually make a clinical impact. Is that what the kind of thing
Totally.
you were seeing?
Yes, yeah. And I think many founders underestimate how complex our clinical reality is, how complex our workflow as physicians is. And that's why, yeah, it's really crucial to have these important conversations early on before you spend years, time, and money and your team resources on large clinical trials. Before you innovate, you need to make sure your innovation is really needed and it will be clinically meaningful and will lead to actionable results. So that's why, I founded Endometrics. And our main goal is to only develop and implement clinically meaningful products. So it's not a wellness industry. It's not another insightful company. We are developing only clinically actionable tests that will help physicians to manage patients, but also will help patients to navigate their journey.
Right, that makes complete sense. So you are fully focused on impacting clinical workflows and patient outcomes within endometriosis, which is obviously your specialty, your
Hmm.
background. You've been there as a surgeon in the OR,
Hmm.
and you're now trying to bring that to life. So there's an idea there, but to become a startup founder 5 years ago, how did that actually come to fruition?
During my PhD, we analyzed genetic aspects of tissue samples of women with endometriosis, specifically endometrial tissue samples, and we revealed really interesting features. We decided to deep dive, and I owned an IP personally, so that was an easy transition for me. I transferred IP rights to the company, and no third party involved. And yeah, we decided to give it a try. And our first supporter actually is UC Berkeley's Skydeck Accelerator. They believed in us. They were first ones to believe in the team, in the idea behind it, in the early science behind the product. And yeah, they accepted us to a cohort in 2022, and that's how our journey started.
Great. And so give us an insight then. So who are Endometrics? What are you doing? How are you going to achieve it?
Yeah, so as I briefly said, we are building this novel clinical intelligence platform for women's health, and we are doing that initially by developing novel diagnostic tests using at-home collected menstrual blood. And our primary focus right now and our most advanced indication is endometriosis with clinically validated biomarker and FDA pre-submission completed. We'll talk about this later, I believe. And we also have two more ongoing proof of concept studies to demonstrate that this is a platform solution. Yeah, so it's really, really interesting journey. And the vision is to help patients navigate their symptoms, get real answers timely, and get clarity and care they need exactly when they need it to avoid diagnostic delays, which are truly unacceptable right now and insane.
100%. And so help me to understand this. The first part of the intelligence platform is a diagnostic
Yeah.
test. What goes beyond the diagnostic test to make it an intelligence platform, and what does it look like once it's fully developed and commercialized?
Yeah, it's a care navigation platform as well. So we don't want to leave patients frustrated with test results, whether or not it's positive or negative. We need to help them navigate their journey. And we need to help them identify the right physician they should talk to and who will actually lead them to timely treatment and the most appropriate treatment. And will help them achieve the best outcomes. And this is really crucial because, especially with endometriosis, the diagnostic delay is enormous, up to 11 years, still in every country in the world. And physicians often dismiss it. They misdiagnose our patients, they dismiss symptoms, and we would love to help physicians as well. Timely triage patients, and we will connect patients to the right physicians so they will get the care they need.
I see. So actually, the diagnosing itself is obviously a huge challenge, a diagnosis
Mhm.
early. But actually, what you're trying to do is then bridge the gap into the right advice, care, and treatment, because you're just, I mean, the time, like the 11 years, that's just
It's insane.
unbelievable, isn't it?
That's true. We do not see these numbers in oncology even. It's truly insane. And endometriosis is still the most enigmatic condition in the whole medicine. And the care navigation is truly important because you need to identify the right physician. You need to understand what your options are, and you need to get this clear guidance. Yeah, and and as a um, pain point in our healthcare system is an access, and we hope to make this highly accessible for every woman, every menstruating individual, and so they will know the answer behind their excruciating pain.
Mm. Um, Now, as I mentioned, your LinkedIn presence, the PR that you've been getting recently has been fantastic. But um, what's been going on, Jan? And this is all very recent. What's been happening recently for the company that's created this buzz?
Yeah, so recently, we got several amazing news. So the major one is we got the first prize in the NIH RADx Act Endo Challenge. It was a 1-year program um, devoted to endometriosis diagnostics advancement, and it actually started in August 2024. So it's been a while, and it included different phases of assessment, and then NIH assigned a team of experts in diagnostics to work with us during this year. And upon the progress demonstrated, we got the first prize, which is a huge honor for us and high recognition.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's for the quality of the diagnostic tool. So the fact that you can accurately diagnose early.
It actually includes 4 pillars like technology, clinical, commercialization, and regulatory. We've been assessed through many, criteria.
I mean, that's music to my ears, because I think one of the things we try and do on this show is to talk holistically about how,
Mhm.
once you have great science, is how you're going to set up as a company. So actually,
Yeah.
you're winning competitions based on the company endometrics
Yeah.
beyond the diagnostic test quality, how you're going to achieve commercial and business success.
Yeah. We've been so focused on science and generating evidence, but
Yeah.
we need to acknowledge that science only is not enough. We need to understand how to implement this in the current workflow, how this will actually work. Would patients or physicians use it? And would that lead to any actionable first steps? So, yeah, that's a huge multidisciplinary work.
Yeah, great. And you mentioned there's other awards that you've received as well.
Yeah, we got a most promising company award at the PMWC conference. It was a competition of startups who use, large scale data to deliver clinically actionable insights. So really, and that's a great honor for us to receive this recognition. And I think that's great for the whole field as well. Femtech and femtech diagnostics specifically is finally getting attention they deserve.
So that was against companies across many different
Yeah.
healthcare avenues, and so actually
Yes.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and we've been the only femtech one, which is also I'm super proud of. Yeah, and
That's awesome.
and we also just recently got this early payer engagement. Let's say we've been invited by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts to work as part of their health equity business program. And again, we're the only femtech diagnostics company, and I'm very proud of that.
Incredible. That's absolutely amazing. We know how obviously important reimbursement and payer relations are in
It is.
diagnostics.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic that you're getting early access to these types of relationships. That's awesome to see commercially.
Yeah, I think this is really crucial to start these conversations early. It's important to talk to physicians first, but it also we should keep in mind that we should talk to regulatory consultants early on before designing clinical trials, before innovating. We should understand the pipeline. We should understand this many angles view and talk to stakeholders from every avenue.
Awesome. You mentioned that the congratulations on that, Yana, by the way. I mean,
Thank you.
it's
Thank
absolutely
you so
phenomenal.
much.
We're connecting at the right time.
Yeah, true.
This is great. You mentioned, in terms of the unmet need, that the delays in diagnosis. What's the sort of volume like across the United States, in terms of, how many um patients or undiagnosed cases are there,
Mhm.
per year? What's the sort of volume we're talking about?
It's a great question, but it's so hard to answer because we do not have reliable statistics in endometriosis specifically. And the reason behind it is that the way we definitively diagnose endometriosis is still
Right.
laparoscopy with histological confirmation. And having surgery as a diagnostic tool is, first of all, truly unacceptable.
Yeah.
And second, leads to biased statistical data. So, what we see from publicly available numbers, 10%, around 10% of women of childbearing age have endometriosis. But realistically, I would say around 20%, even more, because many of them just go undiagnosed for years. And the diagnostic delay really is 80 years on average, goes up to 11 years. And women struggle in pain. They suffer truly in silence. They are misdiagnosed, they are gaslight, and that's insane, truly unacceptable for our patients.
The unfortunate but recurring theme of lack of data in
Hmm.
women's health diagnostics.
Yeah,
Can't even tell us how many people are suffering because
yeah,
women aren't getting the access to critical testing and data that they need, um, and the suffering in silence. I mean, it's just
hmm
we hear it so often that there's just ongoing challenges that women don't have access to just knowing what's going on, and that's absolutely
yeah.
horrific.
Yeah,
Um,
and if you will talk to patient organizations, advocates, they would love to understand what's going on. They would love to hear the real answer, objective answer behind this that will justify their symptoms. And they don't want to hear that this pain might be in their head. They don't want to see this referral to psychiatric department. That's, truly insane. And we need to learn how to hear our patients. We need to learn how to analyze their symptoms, but we also need to develop and actually implement this diagnostic test, reliable diagnostic test. I'm always, noting that we desperately need innovation in women's health. That's obvious, but we need reliable innovation. Not every innovation should be implemented. Not every innovation will gain trust among our patients and physicians. So that's why I'm really, really always encouraging founders to generate enough evidence, be 100% sure it works before you launch, before you change women's life, because they need that, but they don't need just simple novel product. They need the product they can believe in and they can use the results from.
Amazing. And so where are Endometrics today in terms of in the development of the product, commercialization,
Mhm.
capital raise, milestones? I know we've heard about these competitions recently and some
Yeah.
reimbursement updates, which is awesome. But where is the company as it stands?
Yeah, so we've been in research mode for more than 7 years, I would say, even before we started the company.
Yeah,
And we did a series of retrospective studies. We developed and validated the biomarker for endometriosis. That's our most advanced indication, as I mentioned. And we just recently completed FDA pre-submission meeting. We received very positive written feedback, and we just kicked off our multi-center prospective clinical trial. And upon completion of that, we will file FDA de novo submission and we
right.
will launch LDT early access program. So anticipated in first quarter next year. That's for
Wow.
endometriosis, but we're also advancing to more indications and with its own timeline.
Wow. And have you had to raise much capital up until this point?
Yeah, we raised a couple of rounds and we will kick off our seed raise actually next month. Plan to kick it off soon. Yeah, as any biotech company, we're constantly fundraising, but we've been pretty successful, I would say, despite challenges that we face, like being first time founder, female founder in femtech field, right? All boxes checked. But yeah, we've been able to secure non-dilutive grants, but also the first believer, as I mentioned, was Skydeck Accelerator and Berkeley Skydeck Fund that provided us initial capital. And then we've been able to raise from larger funds like Granados Ventures, Supernode Ventures, First Spark Ventures. Yeah. So really, really excited and so thankful for their support along this journey.
That's awesome. And so the seed raise that you're raising, where will that see you through to? Will that see you through to the launch of the
Through the launch.
LDT? Right.
Yeah.
So that brings you through to LDT, commercial traction,
Yeah.
revenue beginning, and then I assume there will be the need to sort of raise again and sort of expand commercially.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. And once FDA approval is, secured, we'll expand further. Yeah.
Wow, you must be so excited. You must be sort of so eager to get
I
through
am.
to next year and see everything go live. You must be feeling great.
I am so excited, truly, and so grateful for our team to working hard every day on that. And, we've been so focused on science again. We've been so disciplined and generating evidence. And of course, we had several challenges raising capital and demonstrating progress. But yeah, we've been focused on science and over time, it just shifts the conversation. And I'm really, really happy that the field is gaining attention it deserves. And we started getting more money, investment in this field again. That's really, really nice trend that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of attention, isn't there? And I feel, no, I feel this probably not with enough fact behind it, but it does feel like 2026 will be a better year to be raising in the
Hmm.
femtech space.
Yeah,
Um, and we need more. We need more because it's such a small percentage of, what
sure.
where capital goes. But it does feel like do you feel that in investor conversations? Do you feel like the conversations are more welcomed at the moment? Is that a trend you're seeing? The sort of tone of the conversations change?
Yeah, for sure. I think the women's health field have been separated from the biotech field during the last 2 years. And as you said, it should be a bit more easier to raise this year compared to last 2 years, for sure. It's been a hard time for small femtech startups, especially. Yeah, but it's great that the level of awareness that women's health field is getting, level of coverage and interest from different stakeholders is truly amazing, and it's a happy time for us to innovate. Yeah, I think this is a great trend, and we will be able to raise more.
Now, as a CEO and founder, and you've spent the last 7 years in development, are you excited
Even more.
about turning on the commercial engine and being a commercialized CEO of a diagnostic company? Is that something you're really looking forward to?
I'm not framing this that way. Maybe that what differs clinician founder from other founders. I didn't have the commercial aspect in mind when I started this. I
Yeah,
had a clinical impact in mind. And while doing surgeries, like in total, I did up to 2,000 surgeries. I did not count specific numbers, but that was a lot.
yeah.
But when you're thinking in general that potentially you can help millions, that's truly insane. That's what excites me most. Not the commercial part, but actually helping millions of women navigating this, actually getting clarity behind their symptoms. And yeah, hearing the trustful answers from clinicians as well. That's what I'm really, really passionate about and looking forward to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that I love the way that you're less focused on the science behind you and what you've developed and more focused on the impact to clinicians, right? Because ultimately in diagnostics, one of the biggest challenges is even when you have a fully commercialized FDA approved product, if clinicians aren't going to change their workflows or adopt,
Uh-huh.
your test, you'll fail, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like you're focusing on all the right things in terms of how and not because you're not doing it because you think that's the best commercial avenue. You're doing it because you're passionate about, that's your purpose, right? You
Yeah.
want to impact clinicians' lives and ability to perform, better work, but also patient outcomes as well.
Yeah, that's true. And, just to note, we are focused on science and quality of science
Of course.
specifically behind the product. And yeah, I'm thinking about this as clinician, and being a doctor is really shaping experience, and it shapes every decision we make as a company right now, because we are focused on science, but also focused on clinically actionable test development. And diagnostic only matters if it changes what's next. As you said, we need to understand what's next, how this will change life of our patient, and how this will help physicians to take care of their patients. And that's the only thing that matters at the end of the day, because women are, they've been overlooked for for so long, for decades, and underdiagnosed, dismissed. That's truly unacceptable, and we hope to change that. But yeah, we're having this clinical impact, enormous clinical impact in mind when we are innovating.
Yeah, awesome. And is there certain ways you're setting up the company, whether it's operationally, commercially, and even sort of the ability to raise awareness and educate clinicians and patients? Is there certain things you're doing to set up Endometrics to be successful as a business?
I mean, we're talking to clinics, different specialties for sure. And for me, it's interesting because I'm talking to colleagues, right? It's not like I'm talking to business owners only. I'm also speaking with my colleagues and we're discussing the clinical impact. We're discussing the data behind this, and the data speaks for itself. So yeah, from commercial standpoint, I think I'm again leveraging my clinical background and network because it's easy to identify clinical pain points and where this test will fit best and what types of physicians will benefit most from this implementation. I think that shifts the conversation and saves us time during this
Yeah,
yeah calls.
I think that makes complete sense. You like if it's almost an unfair advantage that you have is that if as the company turns on next year commercially, if you're the face of the company and performing a CEO, founder, and almost chief medical officer type of role. Maybe you'll hire a chief medical officer at some
Yeah,
point, and that would make sense. But you're almost the chief medical officer now, right? You're speaking to
for sure.
clinicians, right? And
Yeah.
you're in those conversations as a peer,
Hmm.
and you're saying the data is speaking for itself. That is an incredible advantage that you have compared to a true sort of researcher, PhD who's never actually been a clinician, you know?
Yeah, or pure business people, like pure
Right.
MBA. With all due respect, when you're invading in health tech field, you need to understand the health tech field. And I know endometriosis from inside out. I know complex benign gynecological conditions from inside out. I've seen this struggle like on daily basis. I did surgeries. I know what I'm looking for. And this is also why our clinical trials were successful because I know how to design them. I know who I should enroll. I know what surgeons I should work with in order to enroll these patients. And this are critical questions in femtech field specifically. The quality of science should be top notch. It should be so high. It should be so reliable before you launch the test. So you need to utilize your clinical knowledge. And it really helps me to avoid a lot of mistakes while we are building this platform.
Mm. Have you brought in much advice and the team around you to sort of bring in different perspectives and,
Oh, yeah.
and, and aspects that you need in the team?
Yeah, for sure. And besides the team itself, the core team, we also have amazing advisory board, like business advisory board, diagnostic test development and implementation experts, and also clinical advisory board. Again, I'm not, pointing that my experience is the one and only important one
Yeah.
here. Of course, we're hearing from other, key opinion leaders and across different specialties, which is also important because endometriosis specifically, I mean, I'm mostly talking about endometriosis because it's our most advanced indication, but we can talk about many other conditions that we plan to add to the pipeline. But for endometriosis, it's not pure gynecological condition. It's a really systemic issue. And that's why we need to hear different specialist physicians' perspectives. How do they navigate the patients with pelvic pain? How do they take care of them? And how we can potentially help them do that.
Mm.
So yeah, we have amazing clinical advisory board, as
And
well.
you mentioned there's a couple of other indications that you'll move into the
Yeah.
future. Where do you see the platform going to beyond its first indication?
Yeah, so we are not disclosing the specific conditions we're working
Okay.
on right now, but it goes beyond endometriosis. Again, includes a complex benign gynecology and also oncological.
Mm. And so what does the next 9 to 12 months look like now for Endometrics? What do you need to achieve to ensure that LDT it goes live in Q1 next year?
Yeah, so first and foremost is complete this multi-center prospective clinical trial,
Yep.
and that's a crucial one. And upon completion, we will prepare the FDA De Novo package, submit it, and we'll launch it in our partner clinics as an LGT. And also team growth, seed raise, and other crucial milestones that we plan to hit.
So it's going to be a very busy
Oh yeah,
9 to 12 months.
that's
Fant-
true, but so exciting at the same time.
Yeah, unbelievable. This is to be honest, John, I find myself getting excited about where you guys are currently and what you're going to achieve. Obviously, there's been a load of press around the things that you're getting great PR from around the competitions and
Yeah.
reimbursement. What are you most excited about, and what do you think will be the biggest challenges that you have to face?
I mean, challenge is timing of the trial. Again, I mean, every research team faces that, and as a challenge is a raise because it's still hard to raise for additional research, specifically for so early stage companies, because we are truly early stage. We're a pre-seed seed company, and it's another huge challenge anyway. And also, finding the great talent. It's been challenging. We wanted to expand the team like for a year now, and we only found one amazing person who joined recently on the lab development part. But it's really hard to find the right people to join so early
That's
who
why we
share
do
your
what we
values.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Absolutely. It's difficult as well because of it, on the one hand, you feel like a company and a product that is actually quite advanced, right? In terms
Yeah.
of the things that are happening for you guys at the moment, it feels really advanced. But we have to remember you're still a pre-seed company. So that
Yeah, we
sort
are
of,
early.
yeah, you're really early. That difference in where you feel to where you are is probably a sort of little bit of a contradiction in itself. So talent that you're going to talk to are going to be like, oh, we're so close to commercializing. It's like, yeah, but we've still got to raise a seed round. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, well, how's it going to work, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting hurdle that you have to come over as well. Um,
That's true. Yeah.
so it's going to be a really exciting period for you. How are you feeling about the diagnostics market itself and capital raising specifically? How are you feeling about the overall market for the next sort of 12 months?
I love how the field is evolving. To be honest, so many companies and so many investment attention, and this field is just getting so much traction recently. I'm really happy to see that. And the end goal is to develop highly accessible and affordable diagnostic tests and any clinically actionable products for women's health. And I hope that companies will be more focused on the quality of science behind it and will not rush things. I think that's important to not rush things when you're innovating in health tech, but femtech specifically, because you need to, secure enough data before launch, not after, on the real patients who will purchase your tests. So I
Does
think that,
feel
yeah, that's really crucial to keep in mind.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a pressure on companies to commercialize and generate
Yeah,
revenue, right?
true.
And that's forced a lot of hands, especially early stage companies who potentially raised a pre-seed or seed round and are now trying to raise the next round, and their
Mm-hmm.
existing investors are saying, we need more proof of concept, we need more revenue, we need more agreements, partnerships, something that
Mm-hmm.
tells us you're on the right track before we go back and invest more money.
Yeah.
And that has forced a lot of early stage founders' hands to go, what we have to sort of rush it, and that's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, many investors tell founders to rush and to launch it sooner. And I think in diagnostics, like in women's health field specifically, you are increasing your probability of losing physicians' trust. If you will rush
Mm.
things, you will end up losing trust because you need enough evidence behind your product that is launched. Otherwise, and also, it's important to think, who are you innovating for? Are you innovating for stakeholders to generate more money, or are you really innovating for patients and physicians so they can easily navigate their journey and they can achieve better patient clinical outcomes? That's completely different avenues, and you need to be quite honest with your team, with your investors. What are you exactly doing here? And we're keeping clinical impact in mind, and we do not plan to lose trust. We plan to gain it among clinical community, among patients community, which is enormously crucial Yeah, so that's why we are disciplined, taking it step by step, but gaining traction really fast.
Yeah. Well, the traction you're getting, but it's not, having spoken to you, it's no surprise you're getting the traction when so many of the things that you emphasize around great science, clinical impact, talking to clinicians,
Yeah.
and sort of bringing that all together. For me, it's not surprising that you've got a great chance of having a huge impact in ultimately an indication which needs a lot of help. So
Mhm.
I think for me, this is one of those lovely stories that I think the whole diagnostics industry would be rooting for you to succeed and see, meaningful impact, because it's an obvious one where there's a gap and it needs better help. But
Yeah.
I think it's awesome what you guys are doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there's so many gaps. Our healthcare system is broken on so many levels, and we need to innovate, but we need to think how this innovation will help within the nearest future. And if physicians have no idea how to utilize this innovative product, maybe that's not the right timing. So we should,
Yeah.
yeah, always talk to them first, always talk to patients, what they are looking for, how this will help them. Yeah.
Love it. Yana, thank you so much for coming on and sharing the
Thank you.
story, especially amongst your busy schedule and your travels. We will be looking out for these milestones and wishing Endometrics all the best. But thank you
Thank
again
you.
for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support as well. Yeah, really excited. Thank you.